The ocean keeps its secrets beneath a blue-black hush, and among them lies the story of the Titanic. Not merely the night she sank, but the slow, patient unearthing of her bones by machines, mirrors, and the stubborn curiosity of people who would not let her rest in oblivion. The discovery of the wreck more than 7 decades after that cold April night transformed a myth into an artifact and forced the world to look at the ship again, not only as tragedy and legend, but as a deep, complex archive of human life. Preserved in an alien grave dot at 2 miles beneath the Atlantic surface, pressure is a relentless sculptor. Steel becomes fragile, wood becomes pulp, and time works its quiet chemistry. To reach such depths required technology that would have been unimaginable to the passengers who once walked Titanic's polished corridors. The story of the discovery is also the story of the machines. The long, supple cables, the camera sleds with their watchful eyes, the remotely operated vehicles that descended like patient birds into a darkness no human could tolerate for long. Early explorers learned that the ocean was not an empty wasteland, but a slow-acting conservator, sealing, corroding, and sometimes strangely preserving. They learned that every beam, every bolt, every shard of porcelain would tell a story if they learned to listen. When the first images came back through fiber optic cables and light, they were at once banal and ravishing. Twisted steel and staircases, disintegrated upholstery, ceramic fragments. A clock stopped at an ambiguous hour. The cameras delivered fragments of a lost domestic world. A teacup encrusted in white sponges, a brass banister swallowed by rust, a child's shoe half buried in silt that contradicted the grand arch of disaster narratives. These objects forced a reorientation away from abstract numbers and headlines toward the tangible and intimate. The wreck was not solely 1,000 lives lost. It was countless private moments frozen and then redacted by the sea. The first expeditions approached. Their work is both archaeological and cinematic. Sonar maps rendered the wreck in cold shapes across screens. A hulking bow and a shattered stern, lengths of hull lying apart like the bones of a split animal. Such maps changed the way researchers navigated the site. No longer did they search blindly along a vast expanse of seabed. They could chart a corridor between major structures, target specific assemblages, and begin to interpret the wreck as a series of contexts. The bow, with intact railings and a sense of outward reach, yielded different artifacts from the stern, where the ship had imploded and collapsed inward. Each area acted like a separate room in a ruined house, and the careful recording of location became as crucial as the recovery of the artifacts themselves. As cameras swept the decks, the wreck's visual poetry provoked robust debate about stewardship and ethics. Some argued that the ship should be left untouched, a sanctified grave beneath the waves. Others, including historians and museums, maintained that carefully recovered artifacts allowed us to hold tangible evidence of human lives to preserve. Material culture threatened by decay. Salvage operations, therefore, walked a narrow line to retrieve, document, and conserve while attempting to respect what many consider a cemetery. This tension produced painstaking protocols, precise GPS readings, 3-dimensional photogrammetry, meticulous cataloging, all centered on the respectful treatment of objects and the stories they carried. The physical work of recovery demanded patience more akin to watchmaking than heavy lifting. Robotic arms clutched fragile relics in beams of artificial light, hoisting them through acidic black water into pressurized chambers where conservators could begin the long process of stabilization. Salt, oxygen, and time had conspired to weaken materials. Wood soaked in ocean water could crumble within hours when exposed to air. Metals, too, were crusted and friable. Conservators deployed chemical baths, cathodic protection, and controlled desalination to halt the processes of deterioration. The long labor that followed each recovery was invisible to TV cameras, but essential. An artifact, without proper treatment would not outlive the moment of its rescue. The images and artifacts also rewrote human narratives. Personal items. A comb, a pair of spectacles, a ticket stub, spoke to social divisions aboard the ship and to the mundane rituals of daily life. They revealed a ship where extravagance and ordinary habit coexisted. Glittering dining halls juxtaposed with cramped steerage bunks. Letters and fragments of clothing hinted at places and names, at hopes and itineraries interrupted. When researchers traced the provenance of certain items, they could sometimes place them within cabin numbers or passenger lists, which deepened empathy and sharpened historical understanding. In this way, the discovery of the wreck functioned like a communal act of remembering, a new means of honoring individuals beyond statistics, that the scientific value of the site extended beyond human stories. The Titanic has become a laboratory for studying deep-sea corrosion, microbial communities, and the interplay between metal and biology. Iron-eating bacteria colonized the wreck, forming rusticles that drip like frozen waterfalls and slowly erode. Steel. These organisms revealed novel biochemical processes and raised questions about how man-made structures fare in the long term when surrendered to the ocean. Lessons learned beneath the Titanic influenced subsea engineering, the design of offshore platforms, and our broader understanding of how materials survive or do not survive in harsh marine environments. Public reaction to the images and exhibitions that followed was mixed with fascination and revulsion. Museums displayed recovered objects alongside recorded testimonies. Documentaries projected the eerie beauty of the wreck into living rooms worldwide. For many, the wreck's discovery renewed interest in the human stories of 1912. The class distinctions, the heroism and missteps, the bureaucratic failures that had compounded tragedy. Yet amidst renewed curiosity, ethical questions remained. Who owns the wreck? Who has the right to profit from its relics? International conventions moved to balance historical preservation with claims of national and corporate interest, while descendant communities and scholars called for a broadened sense of respect when dealing with human remains and personal belongings. The wreck's discovery also prompted reflections on memory and the nature of historical evidence. A ship is not merely a machine or a setting for a single event. It is a nexus of technologies, economies, and social arrangements. Finding the Titanic meant confronting the physical consequences of industrial ambition and the ways it intersected with human error and environmental forces. The artifacts could not themselves explain why decisions were taken that night, but they enriched the archive available to historians, providing material culture to supplement testimony and testimony to temper speculation. Over the decades, as new expeditions returned and technology improved, our vision sharpened. High-definition mosaics of the wreck allowed virtual visitors to swim digitally among the remains. Three-dimensional models let scholars measure and model collapse. Yet, as instruments advanced, the ethical stakes rose in tandem. Some expeditions emphasized non-intrusive surveys, laser scanning, and digital archiving rather than physical recovery. Others focused on conservation, building controlled exhibits and investing in public outreach to translate the wreck's stories for new audiences. The debate shifted gradually. The more we could record without touching, the more consensus there seemed to be for minimizing physical disturbance. Finally, the discovery altered the cultural life of the Titanic itself. The wreck became a site where grief, curiosity, and historical inquiry met, and its images entered the language of modern myth. Filmmakers, artists, and writers found in the wreck a reflection of human vulnerability and the sublime indifference of nature. But perhaps its most profound gift was to make the past tactile again. When a conservator reveals the pattern on a teacup, or when a sonar map delineates the exact bend of a beam, history ceases to be an abstraction. It becomes concrete, fragile, and morally consequential. The Titanic still lies in darkness, a slow work in progress where metal succumbs to biology and stories continue to leak upward in fragments. The discovery did not end the mystery. It reframed it, turning a headline into an archive and a wreck into a call for mindful stewardship. To stand, even metaphorically, at the edge of that abyss is to confront the persistence of memory, the ethics of rescue, and the responsibility of those who choose to illuminate what the ocean keeps hidden. The discovery was not an act of closure, but an opening, a chance to listen, to learn, and to remember in ways that honor both the magnitude of loss and the enduring dignity of the small human traces left behind.